Hello, I'm Michael Bender, and I'm in front of the whiteboard for our next micro lesson in estimating basics, accuracy of estimates. To begin, let's ask ourselves, what really is an estimate? Well, simply put, it's a guess, hopefully an educated guess. In fact, if we look at it, we realize that the more we understand about an activity or an endeavor, the more we know about it, the more accurate our estimate is likely to be. So let's take a look at estimating accuracy at 3 different points during a project. First, we'll start at the beginning of the project, and we'll call these our early estimates. These are generally inaccurate because we don't know a whole lot about the project at this point. Then, as we start to develop, we get to our intermediate section. And then finally, as our project plan develops and as we really start to understand more about this project, we'll get to our late estimates. Early estimates are generally duration-based. If you think back to our first lesson, we separated the concept of effort-based estimates versus duration-based estimates. Well, at this point of the project, we really don't have enough to understand the actual amount of effort it takes. These are going to be pretty high level, so generally these are duration-based. Later on in the project, as we indicated in our other video, you're going to want effort-based estimates. In intermediate, you're going to have some that are still duration-based, others are going to become more effort-based. So we'll let you pick and choose as you develop. But our discussion today is on accuracy of estimates. So, early on in the project, at the beginning, we really don't understand a lot about this project. So, how accurate do you expect our estimates to be? Well, they can be actually a pretty broad range. In fact, in project management, it is wise never to give a single number. In formal project management, we either give a range of estimates or we give a single number with a plus and minus percentage. To put this to scale, let's take a look at the number of unknowns we have about our project. At the beginning of the project, we have a lot of unknowns. We'll call that our unknowns. As time moves forward, and as we start to understand more and more about our project, what should happen to the number of unknowns? Well, should get smaller. For the sake of our graph, let's assume some of these go in our favor. Let's assume some of these go against us. For the sake of our graph, we're going to assume that for this project, we'll end up somewhere in the middle. Well, this graph typically is asymptotic, so we tend to see graphs that look like this. I call it the trumpet bell. Early on in our project, we have a lot of unknowns. We may not know the stakeholders. We may not know the entire scope of work. There might be new technologies we have to understand and develop. And so our estimates are going to be pretty broad. In fact, these are generally called rough order of magnitude estimates, or ROM estimates. And according to the Project Management Institute, these can be as low as minus 25% and as high as plus 75% from our base. Now, it's pretty obvious that that's a 100% ratio. I personally would have been fired if I ever gave an estimate that broad in a project. Typically on my projects, at the charter level, early on in the project, I was plus or minus 20, maybe plus or minus 25%. Let's do plus or minus 25%, which means if I think the project is $1 million, then the high end is going to be 1.25 million. That's at plus 25%. And the bottom end is going to be 750,000. That's at minus 25%. That's still a pretty broad range, but most senior managers will be able to live with that particular range at the beginning. So we start developing our project. Well, at this point, a lot of the activities are known. We still have a lot that are unknown. We're starting to understand more and more about the project. What do I typically want to see in the middle of the project? Well, typically the numbers I like to see are plus and minus 15% or even plus and minus 12%. As we continue to develop our project, and as we start to understand more, and as we have very well-defined activities, our late estimates become much more accurate. These are also called definitive or engineering estimates. The Project Management Institute is looking for about minus 5 to plus 10%. Typically, the numbers I like to see, plus and minus about 7%. Now, that leaves us with a very interesting question. Obviously, projects are committed at the beginning, where there's a lot of unknowns and our estimates are pretty broad. So your boss comes up to you and says, Michael, here's a project. Tell me what you think it'll take. Well, I spend a couple days doing my homework, and I come up with $1 million plus or minus 25%. The question then becomes, what do I tell my boss? Well, if I'm in a very projectized organization, if my organization understands project management and understands ranges of estimates, I'll just tell them, I think it's $1 million plus or minus 25%. But I found a lot of senior managers really don't understand that, or will tend to misinterpret it. So what do? Do you give them the $1 million at risk that you're going to go over budget? Do you go to 1.25 million? That saves you from going over budget, but you're also allocating money you will probably never need. Well, I'll let you work that out with your management. Personally, what I will start doing is start at the top, but as I start to work on the project, I will start to be able to bring it down. If the money has to be allocated, I will make my best stab at where I want it. For this project, I might go 1.1 million. That way, I'm still covering myself for risk, and I'm not over allocating the amount of money I need for my project. I hope this discussion has helped you understand a little bit more about the accuracy of estimates and how estimates are handled early on in the project. We look forward to seeing you on the next video.